I love the zombie being with the regular guys, because I think that lends itself to, I mean, one, it makes them really stupid, which I think is very, very funny for some reason.
Hello and welcome to StoryFellas, a podcast where we make stories and we break stories. I'm your host, Tommy Antonucci.
And I'm your host, Zach Lovelace.
We're here to tell a story, guys. If you're new to the show, we take about an hour and we improvise a story idea, a movie idea. It could be something else like a comic book or something, but we build a story from scraps and from randomly generated prompts, and we piece it together for you guys. So if you like stories, if you like writing, if you like any of that, this is for you.
You like entertainment? You know?
Do you like entertainment? This is entertainment. Do you like content?
You clicked on this thumbnail. We got you. Clickbait, we got you.
We're not trying to be clickbait. If you see a thumbnail that was very enticing to you, we're going to tell that story. We don't even know what it is yet. We're living in the past, but you know what it is. So
right now.
You're going to see the journey to get to that story, whatever you saw on that thumbnail. Zach, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. Yeah, we actually were just laughing a whole bunch because I found a new AI, and it's a weird. The AI isn't weird, but I just realized there's like a phenomenon that happens with me with new AI tools that I just get sucked in, like tunnel vision. I'm on that AI for like 4 hours just figuring it out. And this one, we're not promoted by them. There's no sponsorship here. Is Suno AI, which is a music thing. And it's just funny because, well, we were laughing because I was making up songs and they sound like passively good. It's not like, I could tell like lyrically there's something going on. Like, they don't say they don't pronounce things the same way. They pronounce things poorly sometimes. Like there's some telltale signs that it's AI. But I was actually talking to another friend that Spotify is starting to get filled up by AI music. And YouTube is the same. I've seen this on YouTube as well, where they make just like chill hop, lo-fi type stuff that doesn't have lyrics, that is really just meant to be background music anyway, but it'll have a really cool thumbnail. Kind of to the point that we just made that joke. The thumbnail makes me click. It's one that's got like a grilled cheese on it in the middle. And the grilled cheese is like just amazingly kind of Norman Rockwell painting level cool. And you're like, oh yeah, that's got a vibe to it. I'll go listen to that. And like the thing is called like cheese. It's like, man, I'm so in. Lo-fi called cheese.
Lo-fi cheese.
Lo-fi cheese. Yeah, lo-fi cheese, bro. I'm all up on that lo-fi cheese. But yeah, I am. I'm totally a YouTube slop eater, drinker, unashamed. But the idea that Spotify was filling up with all of these fake artists, they're like guys with a keyboard. They're not guys making the music itself. And so the whole article had like a larger thing about like how Spotify can basically game the system for itself because it has ads, but it can like make the streaming time go up. Like Spotify itself could just make this music, and then it's paying itself for the ad rev on the plays. Like it could promote it itself, kind of thing. So it's a little bit of a ethical dilemma, I guess. But that made me want to play with this toy, though. Like my friend was like, "Oh, this sucks. Like I kind of want to avoid any music that has this." And I was like, "Yeah, but I kind of want to make some money," And I was just like pretending to like be an artist and. Because I'm not an artist. I'm not a musician. Let's put it that way. But just like the idea that somebody could completely trick some people into thinking that they were a real artist was just really interesting to me. But that's where I've been. It's just been up into Suno AI and making music. And I sent Tommy a song last night. And it was about Tommy and I and a couple of other guys. And so it's just fun. I'm having a good time. I'm creating. That's the whole thing, is I'm creating.
Yeah, it's interesting because I don't know if I've had this conversation with you or other people, but it's just this interesting. It's another era of unlocking the landscape for more people, because back in the old days, music and movies like was kept under lock and key. Like not anyone could just go make a movie.
Oh yeah.
It was the people who could afford the big cameras and could afford the set and all of that. And over time, technology got better and consumer cameras got way better. So you could go get the FX3 for like $3,000 and
Mhm.
shoot the creator on it. And now it's like, okay. And even on our smartphones, like some people have made full features with smartphones,
Yeah. Yeah.
which opened up. And same with music people, like you can get mics like this in your bedroom and then record stuff that you couldn't record before. And when that happened, it opened the landscape. So two things happened. One, it let in a lot more junk because like anyone can like
True.
upload directly, but then it also creates opportunities for gyms, like these things that these people you would never find popped up because, oh, they weren't going to get the opportunity, but they made a path for themselves and they created stuff.
That's a good point, and it reminds me of something I watched the other day. You and I are both Joel Haver fans.
Hmm. He's a
Big,
YouTuber,
yeah.
comedy YouTuber.
We love Joel. Joel is awesome. Like pretty much anything he makes, it's at least worth the price of admission. Just it's worth the click. It's worth
Hmm.
the click. Not all the jokes land because he does like a lot of comedy stuff, but he made 12 feature films last year.
Hmm.
And kudos, Joel. That was amazing.
Hmm.
Will I watch all of them? No. Have I watched one of them? Yes. So it's like that's whatever ratio I'm sure that he knows, but he has a very loyal fan base. And I was watching a video about him and about like analyzing his 12 films.
Mm.
And the whole thing was that he's part of a larger movement called folk filmmaking, which
Mm.
is that it's like it's not even trying to be good in a lot of ways.
Hmm.
It's just trying to participate and just adopt that art form for a more folk
Yeah.
use. And I
Yeah.
was like, that's actually pretty cool. I don't know much else about the movement, so I can't like endorse it and be like, oh yeah, you do this. But as a filmmaker myself, I do consider myself, what I said something the other day. I'm an ant in the afterbirth. I'm so tiny. Like I am part of that in a lot of ways, and so are you.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
um,
It's interesting because with this new era of AI, the same thing's happening with the consumer cameras situation is that people can create songs that have no musical like talent per se, and people
mhm.
can create these awesome clips of like animated dragons that they don't know how to animate, which I think it's going to do the same thing. I think it's going to open the doors, and there's going to unfortunately be a lot more junk, like you said on
Mhm.
Spotify. There's going to be tons because like anyone can type in a thing and make a thing, and then if they don't know how to wield the tools, it's just going to be like, okay, you stitched together 5 clips of a dragon, but that doesn't make a movie.
Oh
But then
yeah.
the people who are talented, who know how to wield the tools, will be like some dude in his basement is going to make the next like indie CGI whatever because
Yeah.
he's going to learn how to use mocap and he's going to let AI the CGI characters he can't create himself. And
That's a good point. And actually to that point, I'll bring Joel back up. Like he
yeah.
cut his teeth and made a name for himself figuring out a way to animate himself.
Hmm.
Like he had those animated videos that really helped him pop off and grow his main audience. So
Yeah.
it's like he just found a way to use a tool that had been around for a while.
That no one else
Not an
was
AI
doing.
tool
Yeah.
either.
Yeah.
And so I think at least not expressly an AI tool. There might be some AI related to it, but yeah, that's what I think is the key. Is it pushes the cream to the top because the cream knows that it's not. You don't make the whole thing in it.
Hmm. Yeah.
Maybe as a stunt, somebody might. Like I made a
Yeah.
whole movie with Midjourney, and it's like, wow, cool.
Yeah. No, it's like because I'll see little trailers and it's all voiceover because right now you can't really like match lips to things, like it'll
Yeah,
just be like a voiceover piece, which it's getting really good. And I'm a little worried about like whole dead internet theory that it's all going to be AI and it's all just going to be like too much
I believe it
content.
100%. Yeah,
But I feel like something like the folk filmmaking could pop off and be like a side thing when everyone's they're like, okay, this all looks fake. I want to watch this dude with his friends like make a little indie piece
yeah,
that
and
feels really real.
totally. The one that I was watching a bunch of clips from, I think it was the first one that he did, where it's Joel as the main character, and it's like he's acting in it, and it's not. His acting is bad. Like, and there's because he's trying to be genuine in a couple of the scenes I saw, and it's like it's not very good,
Hmm.
but it's real though.
Hmm.
You
Yeah.
know, so there's like you might see an AI super close up Zack Snyder shot of like a tear drop down some guy's face, and it's like, oh, there's the real emotion, but it's missing any soul. It's missing any of
Hmm.
all of human history that kind of goes into making an image.
Hmm.
right? Like the thing that determined that actor to look that way and act that way and be able to pull on the emotions in that way. None of that's there. It's all completely manufactured, and it really is an aggregate of all the other times that somebody real did cry on screen. It's so fascinating. I don't know. Anyway, this has a lot to do with StoryFellas insofar as we are participating in this landscape. But if you want a real story, and you've kept up with this conversation this whole time, we're going to jump in and we're going to tell one.
Yeah, absolutely. Zach, I need you to roll a 10-sided die for me.
Oh, hot hand. I got an 8.
An 8. Uh, mm, mm.
Oh, you okay?
Oh,
You
yeah,
okay
sorry.
there? You okay there, buddy?
I got choked up.
Yeah, you saw the
Uh,
prompt and you got choked
I
up
was like,
on
oh no, not this one. I actually really like this one. I know that, but before we got on the mic, Zach was talking about doing a horror, which this is
it.
kind of framed for funny, but I think we could steer it horror if we wanted to. We'll see. Um, a guy gets caught up in a bachelor party of undead monsters. He needs to hide the fact he is human.
That's awesome. That's fun. Yeah, I mean that's
That's
obviously a comedy. Like, I
yeah,
mean, you could do it like somehow he's like it's real. I mean, like I don't know, scary or whatever. Just the idea of it's farcical. Like, oh, I'm
yeah.
my identity. Somebody thinks I'm something that I'm not, and it's actually what the plot to like Hotel Transylvania, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. It is. Well, like,
Part of it.
um, yeah, it's the main Hotel Transylvania is that Adam Sandler's Dracula realizes there's a human, and like it's a very Monsters Inc. Like everyone's like afraid of the humans.
Mm-hmm.
So when a human gets into his hotel,
23,000.
he has to keep it under wraps, like to
Yeah,
try to like get him out.
it'll hurt
It's
his
very
reputation and the
it's
reputation of his.
it's it hurts the reputation. It hurts like the hotel's supposed to be safe from humans.
Yeah.
It is very similar to Monsters Inc. I never actually thought about that, but that's kind of funny. And I think this is a little different because the monsters aren't necessarily scared of the human. I think it's really funny if they're all like these broy zombies and like werewolves and stuff,
Oh
and
yeah.
like they just mistake him, but they're like, man, later tonight we're gonna go hunt down a human. It's gonna be great. And like I don't know why,
Humans
like
taste so good.
he's like, oh, okay, okay.
So I think to make it simple, it could just be all zombies.
Yeah.
But I do like the idea that there are different monsters.
Uh-huh.
And what do they go to like? It's very popular right now to go to Eastern Europe, not super Eastern Europe. Let's be clear. You don't go all the way to like Russia or anything.
Yeah.
But like Croatia
Hmm.
is super popular right now. I think my boss just went there and did like a whole cruise, a Black Sea cruise or whatever.
Neat.
And so it's just you. I could see somebody being set up to go, on a bachelor party, and maybe
Hmm.
he just gets that they get swapped. So there's a monster one, and then there's a regular one. Two
Yeah.
bachelor parties in the same place, and so then there's a monster that ends up with
Oh, that's
with the
actually
humans, and then there's so that pushes us way outside of the Hotel
uh,
Transylvania thing.
okay. I do have a way for this to happen because I'm thinking, how would they and we can workshop this, but I feel like it can be as simple as there's two dudes, one's like a zombie and one's a normal dude. And you have to have this kind of meet cute moment where they're like have like the invitation or something like that, or it's just like
They both get off the
um
plane, and they're,
well, yeah, because like I think I don't know, like I know in this world of smartphones you probably just have it in the thing, but like maybe like, oh, you're gonna get this invitation when you land or something. Some reason that they like bump and they like misplace addresses. Cause I think the
Mm.
monster bachelor party has to be like deep in the woods where the guy's like, where am I? Cause I don't think it makes sense for the monsters to be
Oh
in
yeah,
society.
I think you would
Like,
just find a reason where that the guy probably fell asleep. Like he's already with his party,
yeah,
and I don't know. I guess you'd want that. You're right though. You're trying to be really economic with like you swap them at the same time
yeah.
and for the same reason, as opposed to like the human guy gets bumped over. Um, I think they were
Oh,
just in the same place at the same time though. That might work. It's
you
like they're
know,
already there.
they could just be at a bar and just partying and
Yeah,
stuff, and
yeah.
then they're like, "All right, we got to move on to the hotel." It's like people are getting a little too crazy, and then like there's just two shuttle buses, and then like they just like in the chaos you have like a Kevin McAllister, like they just shove some random guy into theirs,
Yes,
and then we
yes.
shove our protagonist in the monster one because the monsters were just like clubbing at this party like in disguise, and then and then they wake up in the morning. Like it's like an all weekend, long weekend
Yeah.
bachelor thing. Which I don't know if like, how do we, okay, hold on. I've got another, like it could be a Halloween themed thing. Like he's like, oh, I'm
Oh,
getting
okay.
married on Halloween. Cause then the club is all like Halloween themed.
Costumes and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. That's a good like visual thing, obviously. Like that's fun.
Because if we need to hide the fact he's human, like he needs to be dressed up like something.
Yeah.
And then they're just like, man, whoa, dude, who are you? And like, you're not
Well, I was
Mikey
thinking
or
zombie
something.
made the most sense because he could get really drunk and be hungover, and the next day he wakes up with the monsters, and it's just like, whatever. And they're like, oh, hey, hey, zombie.
Yeah.
I never
Yeah.
really knew him, but
Yeah, I like that. They need to not know him. Like that's very clear that they don't know him, but they need to be fooled enough that they think he's a real monster for a minute. You know, they're like, oh,
and
man.
long enough for at least him to start playing around.
Yeah,
I like that.
yeah. I think that's enough of the setup. Like I think that's
Yeah.
funny. It's like, hey, we're going to this European thing. We're gonna have a. I don't know if they celebrate Halloween there, but like
Oh,
I don't
yeah.
know. There's
Why
like a
not?
monster masquerade, something or other.
Maybe
That's
they're
where
in
it
Germany,
starts.
Oktoberfest. They're drinking a whole bunch. And then there's like, they make it to like, oh, they're having a Halloween club down the street. And so they're all, I love the idea that it's like with the Blade where they have like the blood comes out of the sprinklers. It's like, they're like, this is amazing. And the humans like have no idea that they're about to get murdered.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Which
I
is
think that's
fun.
cool.
I think we should talk more about like what does each human are we like do we want to play with the other story of the one monster with the human dudes?
I think that
like,
just that's fine. I think he's a zombie. That's the whole thing.
Yeah, or
and so
Frankenstein or something like that.
Frankenstein would also be funny. I mean, one that like doesn't really talk, doesn't transform, I think is Creature from the Black Lagoon. Like I don't know if they would fall for that.
Yeah.
You're like pushing it to your breaking point, but the zombie, it's like they can literally look like each other. It's like, oh, look at them, and they kind of just like maybe
They're
they
like
in the bathroom they like look in the mirror at each other. They're both like washing their faces, and he
they're
like,
like,
turns
whoa,
and it's
man,
like,
you look like they're like both drunk. They're like,
and he's
"You
like, I
you
look
like
terrible.
me." They're like, he's like, and they're like, let's call him maybe Mikey. Mikey is the main
Mikey's cool.
protagonist.
Yeah.
And then they wake up. I do like the idea that they're just like a little bit doppelgangery. Like that's just I know we're MacGuffining it a little bit, but I think that will help. Where Mikey, because his friends are just like, dude, Mikey got messed up last night. Look at his face. I think he got in a fight or something. He's like, oh, just like his face is all like beat up and
I love the zombie being with the regular guys because I think that lends itself to. I mean, one, it makes them really stupid, which I think is very, very funny for some reason.
It is really funny. And I like at first, like the zombies. The zombies also messed up and not, like no one's feeling great the next morning, clearly.
Yeah.
So that like aids this. And then like the zombie almost, he's like, oh, no.
I have an idea. Okay, so Mikey, they're on their, Croatian or German. We said German because Oktoberfest. They're German bachelor party, like we went to Germany, which makes sense because all these monsters kind of are European in nature, the classic monsters anyway. And I'm pretty sure that's where we're agreed that it's like Dracula, Frankenstein, werewolf, zombie, and then Creature from the Black Lagoon. We're kind of going universal monsters.
Hold on, I'm gonna look up what does a Creature from the Black Lagoon?
It's the guy from The Shape of Water.
Oh, he's like he's like Fishman, basically.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
I mean, you could do something else. They all have to be male monsters. There are other like types. I mean, you could do a blob. Like I don't know. That's what Hotel Transylvania did, though.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
A mummy.
Yeah.
I like that. And yeah, the thing is, like, we want the monsters to be somewhat sophisticated, right? Like they can talk, and they're not all dumb. Just like
no, they're not dumb. No, I think so. We need someone getting married on both sides, and I don't really want it to be Mikey. Like it could be Mikey, he could be, but no, he's being invited.
Yeah,
so
he could
I
be the
don't
best
think,
man.
Yeah, I didn't know if we want to add some stakes to it, like where he has always like I don't know. like if he had, I feel like this is too shoehorning it, but like he had feelings for the bride, and the guy, the actual groom, is not
Mm,
actually a good fit for her. Like he's kind of a
mm.
jerk or something. Because it's really funny to me that Mikey like coming in and objecting Shrek style with all these monsters. They're like, "You
Yeah.
can't do it, man!" Like the creature from the Black Lagoons is like, "Roar," just
Well,
attacking
I
people.
got it. He's the little brother of the bride, and so he's nobody on the groomsmen likes him.
Or even knows him super well.
Yeah. So
Okay.
exactly.
Okay.
So I have a small little vignette scene where one of the human bachelor party guys is like, I got a thing that like takes like eliminates a hangover completely. It's this mushroom coffee thing. You've seen this before, and it's like one of
Yeah.
those ads or whatever, and it's like brain fur or whatever they call it. And oh man, you got to drink this, and they give it to the zombie, and he becomes smart again. I just love that, but just for like a limited amount of time. He's just like, oh wow, yeah, this is great.
That's really funny.
It's like my appetite for human flesh has subsided. Um, I think that's funny too, because then he's not just like trying to eat them the whole time.
Yeah.
Although
Yeah.
that also would be funny.
Yeah. I feel like he's got some intellect. He's not just bestial. I think he's just
Yeah,
like low level zombie, but it would be funny if they like, you got to take this. And he does like kind of give him a little boost. Like,
yeah.
oh, I don't know if you've ever seen Warm Bodies
I
where
haven't
like,
no, but I know
okay,
what it is. The zombie love
yeah,
story thing.
yeah, where like the zombies develop more of a personality as they go. And they're just like, I don't know, like they like the zombies like hang out and like at a club and stuff, and they just like grunt and there's like subtitles and stuff. I like that level where they're intelligent, but like doesn't mean he can talk well or anything like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, that's true. I do
But
think.
I do like brain fur. You got to drink some brain fur, man.
Yeah, I got my brain fur over here. I think to kind of help the narrative, the real story is what is Mikey's arc. So does he learn to? He basically, I think, exposes the bachelor party for being like terrible, bad people, kind of thing, or like stops the wedding from happening. Because you said at the end he comes in and he's like, "I object."
Yeah, like maybe this dude we can just establish from the beginning when he lands in this place, like, hey, Mikey, glad to have you. Like the guy's kind of a jerk.
Yeah.
And Mikey's kind of a pushover, so he doesn't really speak up to anything. And maybe it's even one of those things that like when he sees him interact with the bride, he's like kind of dismissive of her and she kind of just goes with it.
Yeah.
Like she's like feels like she's reading too much into it. And we're leading to the end where he comes, kicks in the door, which is a cool dynamic because it's a brother, not just another
Hmm.
romantic person.
That's
I
true.
think he's just like, hey, you deserve way better than this guy.
You
I'm
deserve
sorry
this
that I'm not.
monster.
Yeah,
She brings in the.
I really like the idea where it's just like the groom is just like Mike. He's like Mikey, I'm gonna give you a pound. He's like a classic bully, and he comes up and just one of the monsters just eats him.
Oh yeah,
Just
I think that's
completely-
definitely going to happen. Like having them fight the groups. I do think what ends up happening is basically there's also groups of bachelorette parties
Yeah,
happening. There's no like mix up though on those. They just are happening independently.
yeah,
And I do think that the human males find the bachelorette party, and they end up. I like the idea that they kill the bride of that party, and so that then further entangles them.
Oh wait. They kill
The humans kill the
monster
monster
bride.
bride, yeah, which I think is the bride of Frankenstein. That kind of makes sense.
Gotcha.
Um,
Um,
and
yeah,
kills. It's like she doesn't need to actually die. I mean, I kind of like that. But then at that point, I don't know, because like, what are we saying about them being monsters? And like,
yeah,
why does Mikey being like a pushover little brother, like he needs to find the monster in himself? Basically, I think would be the
yeah.
by hanging out with the monsters, he picks up monster behavior. Basically,
Yeah, yeah, but also this contrast of these other broy dudes are kind of the real monsters in
that's
the
my
thing.
point.
Like,
Yeah, that's yes, yeah.
So like being a monster in the good way. Maybe the monster says like you gotta be a monster in the good way, man. It's
What
not
does that even mean?
even.
That's cool. I think
yeah.
to flesh out the roster, we have a vampire who I love the idea of like a long blonde haired, like slicked back,
Yeah.
eternal kind of guy. Like he's not, he's suave, he's sophisticated, but he's not Dracula.
Yeah.
And maybe he resents that that
Yeah.
association or whatever.
Yeah.
And then you have Frankenstein, who's getting married. He's the groom. Can talk a little bit, but probably not a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, there's so many like little like hallmarky kind of jokes I could think of, where it's like Frankenstein sharing his vows, and it's like super. Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Well, like not just that, but he's a man of few words, and he's just like whatever.
Yeah.
And then you have the Wolf Man, who I guess is he a wolf the whole time? You think?
It's more interesting if he's a wolf the whole time, just an intelligent wolf, or
That's
he
true.
can kind of go in between, like he's just
He's
a
like
hairy
more
guy.
man, like he's more of the classic wolf man that can like walk. He's wearing clothes. Like he's
Yeah.
not just totally freeballing it as a werewolf. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
I
I
like
think-
that. And then the mummy.
Yeah.
And I like the idea that it's kind of like, you remember in The Wizard of Oz where all of the uncles that she has are the actual actors that play the friends that she makes in Oz.
Oh yeah.
But they all kind of exhibit behaviors that are related to the qualities of their characters, their corresponding characters. So I think something like that should probably be the case, where it's like the real monsters obviously look like the real classic Universal monsters, but then the humans who are more monstrous, they kind of look and exhibit behaviors that are.
I think that's really funny because that leans into the doppelganger thing for
Yes.
the Mikey. Like it's just every one of them kind of has like a matching
Yeah.
dude. They're like, I don't know. They're like,
Which
wait,
what does that mean then by making him the zombie? Because that's thematically what you're doing.
Yeah, I think he's kind of like slow and passive, like not slow intellectual wise, but like slow, like he's slow to move, he's slow to act. He's
and zombies are pack animals,
yeah,
so they don't have like strong individualistic.
yeah, he's just
identities.
kind of trying to be like part of the group.
Yes,
as a whole.
And so him really finding the balance of I'm part of the group, but I have my own identity basically. I'm not just the little brother kind of thing. I don't know.
I really like the idea of at the end, we established like a really good friendship with Mikey and like one of the monsters. But then I don't know. I love the bride like end up dating one of the monsters. It's like a genuinely
I
good
think the
guy.
Wolfman would make the most sense because he would just like, when he transforms back, basically, and maybe he doesn't transform back for a long time, but until the end, and then Mikey's sister sees the transformed version of him, like the human version of him, and is like, "Oh, hubba hubba,"
Yeah.
That makes the most sense to me.
Yeah,
and that's maybe he can transform back whenever, and so he does like. Maybe that's when he gets found out for not being a monster. Is like when the Wolfman turns into the human, and he's like, "Hey, buddy, you don't belong here."
Yeah, let's go through this story circle a little bit because I think we've got a lot of good beats. I want to see what we're missing. So we have the established protagonist. We start with Mikey. He's flying into this thing. He's kind of like the last choice in this bachelor party.
Yeah.
They're like he's there because his sister's there and she really wanted him part of it. The guys don't really like him. The dude's kind of the groom is rude to him, especially. He's kind of just a classic bully vibe. But he's also not great for the girl, and we kind of established that, but she's kind of going along with it. She's very forgiving of it. That's the need, is Mikey's thinking like, we need
something.
Yeah. And then they go to this party, this Halloween like monster party, gets in the wrong thing. This is the crossing the threshold where the zombie wakes up with the humans, Mikey wakes up with the monsters. And I think the search is that this is kind of less of a survival story at this point where like I think there is a reveal that he's the human. But they're like thinking this is the zombie for a while, and he's like playing along with it out of fear. And then as he starts learning about these guys, then he's like, it's really funny if we play it eventually in the tone of like a romantic comedy. It's like, you're not who I thought you were.
Yeah.
Like they're not like trying to kill him. They're just like betrayed that they're like, you're not Zyke. You're not Zyke.
Yeah. You're a dirty human. You're not Zed.
You're not Zed. I like Zed for the
Yeah,
zombie.
and he's yeah, you're just a dirty human.
But I think while he's with them, he's learning like this group of guys is like that's the very funny thing is that the humans is this toxic masculinity and the monsters actually have like a very supportive guy friend
Yeah, yeah.
group that they're like and he's learning like oh this is what it feels like to and they're encouraging me and he's I don't know they're like Mike they're like Zed you're really talking clearly lately I don't know what's going on if you've been like drinking some are you on that brain furt like they
Yeah, yeah.
also heard about it he's like oh
That's
yeah
it really is like a master idea, like if you could nail it anyway, like
yeah
of setups and payoffs, because you just
yeah
have the mirror there so strong. So it's like if you set something up in the human world, like the brain fur with the zombie, yeah, you could pay it off with the other way around. Where it's like, I drink brain fur, like because
yeah
he remembers it because the guy was trying to give it to him before,
yeah
and he's just like, oh, okay, nice, nice, yeah.
It would be kind of funny if Zed was the one bad boy of the zombie group. Like
Oh, and they're
he's
like, go kill that
ostracized.
guy, go kill that
Well,
human.
no, they don't love him because he's like toxic, and then but then the broy dudes love them. They're like, Mikey, you're so cool. Like, and then like the zombies just like partying and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
he's straight up killing people, and they're like, Mikey, Mikey. Which I don't know if that like undercuts the theme of him like finding his inner monster or whatever. That like he needs to stand up for himself and be assertive. Because if the zombie's like just standing up for himself and being assertive, if the zombie's the version of him that they like, I think they would say like, "Hey man, you're hauling off. Like you can't, you know." I don't know. Maybe the zombie is like a good guy, obviously. And
Yeah,
so
I'm
he,
saying the zombie if the zombie's a bad guy and all the human dudes like him, we're like emphasizing that they're not great dudes.
yeah, that's my point. Is like he's actually a bad guy, like the zombie, because the monsters are good guys, you
Yeah.
know. But I also get they're good. I do like having a scene, and this might be the scene where you find out that, um, you find out that Mikey is not a monster, but they're like they find like, oh, let's go kill somebody. Come on, let's go kill somebody. And they fly around and, you know, and he just like the virus like carrying him through the sky or whatever. And he's like, oh, there's a guy. And maybe it's like a girl from the bachelor party,
Hmm.
or something like that. And they're like, oh yeah, go kill her. And he's like, no, I can't, you know? I think that he's like, I'm not the guy you think I am. I'm not Zed.
Yeah.
I think
That
that
is
would
really
be,
funny. Of like, there's some girl in the alleyway, and they're like, "Go get him, Zed. Go get him." And then he's just like, they like push him out of the shadow. Like she like hears like people. She's like that classic like there's thugs in the
oh yeah,
ominous
and the
thugs,
smoke and the fog.
and then they just like push this like squeamish guy out like into the light who like looks super nervous, and the girl's like, hey," and he's like, "Yeah." They're like, "Do it, Zed. Do it."
Yeah,
And
you
he's
hear
like,
it in the fog or whatever. Come on, kill her. And he's just like, "Uh, can I pretend to kill you?
That's actually
Can I
really,
pretend to
really
kill
funny.
you?"
He's like, "Hey, this is gonna be smooth if you just pretend to die." Like, and he's like doing the most like, "Here comes the punch."
Yeah.
She's like,
Well,
"What are you
and then
doing?"
beforehand,
And
they're like, man, Zed, we saw you rip that person to shreds over in like Croatia or whatever. Like, we can't wait to see you use your bare hands to just rip somebody apart again. And then I mean, again, this is like kind of undercuts the theme of like the zombies are, or the monsters are good guys because they're out here just like straight up killing people.
Mhm.
So you'd have to show that like the human bachelors are worse than that somehow.
Yeah,
So
we
I don't know.
could we could go whole Twilight vibes where it could still be funny where like they do like they're like we have to eat but we like feed off of animals and then they're like trying to get Mikey they're like there's like a giant moose they're like kill that moose Mikey kill the moose because then
Okay,
we take off the stakes but it's still very scary he's like I don't know they're like dude you do this all the time we've seen you kill that moose
yeah, we know it's not a human, but you know, you could totally.
the moose just like starts like beating the crap out
Oh
of
yeah,
him.
I think a cow or something like a farm animal. That way, like
Yeah.
a human could come into the picture at some point.
Yeah.
Would also be really good. But yeah, I mean, do they all eat animals? I guess I'm more of in a world building mode apparently, where I'm
Mhm.
just like asking all of these questions. But I guess
I
what
don't know.
really matters is that yeah, they're really pressing him outside of his comfort zone.
Yeah. Like doing something monstrous. Like I think it undercuts it too much to have them like kill uh
I don't know. It's
Like
really funny
just
though.
it is funny, but you're the theme guy. I'm trying
I
to keep
know,
it
I
on the
know. I'm
theme.
willing to
Like it
break
is.
it. I'm willing to break the theme.
Whenever I want to break the theme, you never want to break the theme. But whenever
That's
Zach wants
true.
to
That's
break the
true.
theme,
That's
it's
true.
fine.
You're
It
fair.
is
You're
fun.
fair.
Like if you lean into heavy comedy, I think you can do it. You breaking the reality where everything's so ridiculous that like
Yeah.
people dying randomly is not like it's not applauded clearly, but it's also just because that
Yeah.
is a really funny ending where the swamp man's like "Roar," and just like eats like right rips the head off of the groom, and they're
I
like,
do think that.
"Whoa,
Yeah.
that's a." Like even the other monsters like that seems a little extreme, man. He's like, "Oh, I thought
Ooh.
this was what we were doing."
I
Um,
think that's yeah. That actually really works.
um,
That the monsters, for whatever reason, and they can say this like it's a survival tactic. You know, if we go out here and just kill a bunch of people,
yeah,
that doesn't help us. And I don't know why they'd be saying this to each other. Maybe it's
yeah.
stop the fish man early on because he's got like a fish brain. He doesn't transform or anything. He's like really hard to deal with. At least the zombies have like a dead human nature, and the
Yeah.
wolf man at least becomes a human a little bit. But like this fish guy, he's just a fish.
He's kind of like the weasel from Suicide Squad, where
Yes.
they're like, "Is he just a big weasel?" They're like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, kind of. He's just a big weasel."
Which I actually kind of like because it dunks on the Shape of Water a little bit, where they're like, "Oh, the Shape of Water. Oh, he's kind of humanoid, and you can have sex with him, and that's okay." And it's like, What is going on here? Like,
Yeah,
no, that is way beyond the pale of
yeah.
of
You make a joke.
acceptability.
You make a joke. It's like this dude. He's like, he's just he loves Shape of Water. He loves
Yeah,
that movie.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, Shape of Water really did him a lot of good.
He's like eating like guppies. He's like, oh, he's just like watching Shape of Water.
You put it on again. You put it on again. Really?
It would
Um,
be. It would be. It again, this is all setups and payoffs and stuff like that. Where before you even meet the monsters, someone in the bridesmaid human party is just like, I love The Shape of Water. Like I love that movie. And then like when she meets the fish man later, they're both like, oh, and they fall
and
in love
then
or
he just
whatever.
kills her.
Oh,
I think that's funny because like at that point you've done all the setups and payoffs like over and over and over again, which is clearly like the device that we're really leaning on for this.
yeah,
Like I think Edgar Wright would do a good version of this
yeah,
because Edgar Wright films are just like nothing but setups and payoffs, just
yeah.
like quick, fast. The 5 second character thing,
Hmm.
of spilling coffee in the first 2 minutes of the film, it like comes back into play,
Hmm.
later on. But yeah, like there'd be no wasted.
Yeah.
There's no fat, basically.
Yeah, and I feel like this is like we're obviously audience. You get the vibe of this is like there's a switch at the beginning, the hue like the through the switch, Mikey's learning stuff about himself, about people, about how he should stand up for his sister, and then at the end there's this big culmination of all the groups coming together and it's chaos. That's the big overarching outlines. I do think there's like we're kind of toying with four groups of people. There's the monster party, there's the human party, there's the bridesmaid party,
Yes.
and there's the monster bridesmaid party, which in a real movie, I think it honestly like I think we could allude to some of these. It's probably too much to do all of them at the same time. It's very funny because there's just endless jokes that you could weave in and out. I think if you were actually going to make this into a real movie, I think you'd have to be like, okay, we're going to really focus on the monster. We're going to like the B story is the human party, and then maybe like their interaction with these bridesmaid parties. But it just feels like there's so many characters at that point. I feel like it
Oh
could be a
yeah.
little daunting to.
Yeah, you'd have to just like a lot of them are just flat, like the bachelorettes. Um, they're just like the monster bachelorettes. You don't even need to know
Dude,
them. I mean, they're literally cartoon characters, basically.
I've got a very funny thing that could add a little. And this I feel like this movie is so MacGuffin-y a little bit, but I love it. It's just like things have to happen so that they're like, hey, we're just gonna cross paths with the girls' bachelor party or something. They're gonna hit up this club or whatever, and they're at the club, and he's still like pretending he's the zombie. And they're at the club, and then they're like, oh, here's the party, and then like they sit around. And they're like, oh, let's go dancing. And it's very clear that one of the girls is also human and nervous. And
Yeah.
he's like, are you? He's like, hey, are you human? She's like, what? No. He's like, I'm human. She's like, oh my gosh. And then you give him like a little bit of a love interest, like in the movie
Okay.
where
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
that's kind of funny. Like it's very absurd that this happened to both of them. And he's
Well,
like,
I think it didn't happen to both of them. There's just another reason that she's with the humans,
or she's with the monsters.
or she's with the monsters. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like she's just a human. Although that would be then revealing himself to her. If that was the case, like it would either have to be, you're right, it'd have to be a double accident, which is
Yeah,
hard to believe, or because it's
I
just
know.
like the coincidental aspect of it. I mean, again,
That's the part that's hard to believe about this movie.
yeah, I know. I was
The
gonna say
double
it's just,
accident.
it's within the story world.
Yeah, yeah, I get
Accidents
that.
don't typically, well, happy accidents anyway. Accidents that like help the protagonist aren't good,
Yeah,
because it's basically the writer moving in a godlike way that like breaks the suspension of disbelief.
yeah.
Um,
We could also just have her be at the club. I just think it's funny that they
yeah,
have this shared trauma, sort of speak, where they both are in the same predicament. That's kind of funny to
I
me.
think if they had a lady of the
Or
night, might you say, come and visit them,
mm,
or they go to a club and they have like a private room and there's a dancer, and she's a woman,
mhm,
and like she's kind of hot, um, but no, like she'd be human, and then
yeah,
she's talking to. I do think there's like two different movies happening.
mm,
The one that I think I'm more interested in is the one where he's trying to stop the monsters from doing monstrous things,
yeah,
like as a zombie.
yeah,
And so it's like just over and over again. They're like, well, why would you not want to just kill this woman? And then they don't understand.
mhm,
And so like they hire like a private dancer to show up, and she shows up and she's human.
mhm.
And he's just like, because the whole time they're like, oh yeah, we're gonna let her dance for a little bit and then we eat her. And they just keep saying stuff like that. And he's just like, no, 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 I don't think we should do that, as the zombie.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah. I
and
think okay, that's like yeah, these are two different movies because like we're not making them good guys. But that is funny. I think that creates more comedic stuff. It would be funny if he turns them
good.
um good by the end.
And
And
then
then
if the
like this
zombie
is
one turns them bad,
well
like,
no, I think the guys like the human ones are always like too bro. Like we have to establish that at the beginning, or at least the groom is like not a great guy.
yeah.
Um, but it would be funny if the zombies are just egging them on. Yeah, they're like, I never thought about killing people, but it sounds so cool after Mikey talked about it.
I
Um,
do think, yeah, that basically at the end there has to be a physical fight between the groom and Mikey,
yeah,
where he shows up and he's just like, yeah. And so, because that's what you want. You want to work backwards from there, basically. Is you want to, like, if they have their corresponding people on each party, you want them to fight each other at some point.
mhm.
And of course, I think the human guys would lose, but maybe not. It could be like kind of even a little bit. Like they got a big Frank guy. They got a gill man themselves. They've got a fish guy. I don't know how you like sell
He's a
their.
swimmer. He's a
Yeah,
swimmer.
that's a good idea. That's a good idea. He's like, I qualified for the Olympics. Um, but
Okay,
yeah,
I
like
think
they jump
I
into the water and they swim. I
yeah,
don't know, like, and fight each other underwater.
yeah.
Um,
I was also gonna say the love interest could also be this is before we're changing the tone of it. Like she's with the monster bridal party, and he's like, "Are you hiding too?" She's like, "No, I'm just friends with them." And it's
mm,
like, but that's more the route of like this idea of monsters and humans can be friends. This
friends.
like divisive thing, which eventually they learn. The monsters learn. I like the idea that Mikey's just like a good friend and listening to them. He's like, "Man," the mummy's like, "Man, I've never talked about this with anybody."
For
And
millennia.
I've been holding this in for millennia, man. I think that's funny. I think there's the fight. I still like the fish man, like eating the groom. Um,
Oh yeah.
I really like the idea of like Mikey fights him, and then like Mikey gets the upper hand and he gets him, and then he's like, "You're not worth it," and he's like walking away, and then the groom like picks up like I don't know like something to hit Mikey with and it's gonna like get him behind the back and then the fishman just like pounces on him and for like a solid like uninterrupted minute it's just like screams and him being eaten like it's not a quick thing it's like ah, ah, just
I'm being
like
eaten. I'm being eaten.
it's just like it's just like overdone like just full on comedy like 60 seconds of that until there's just no more screaming and they're like everyone's like whoa.
I do like that a lot. I mean, obviously that plays into my sensibilities. So yeah, because I'm thinking you either have the monsters are good guys or the monsters are bad guys,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
And either way, you can have a lot of these jokes where they kill people and stuff like that. I think that is funny, regardless. Like if they're good guys and they kill people, that's funny. They can always kill bad people or they can kill animals.
Yeah.
That's basically what we're setting it up with
Yeah,
the
we're not
bachelor
trying to,
party.
by the end, they're not going to do that. Like, we're not trying to praise them killing people by
Yeah.
any means, but they are monsters. That's what they do. So, where by the end, they're like, there is a different way. I don't have to kill people to feel good, which I think is
I like
funny.
that the idea that late in the game, after he's been found out by the monsters, he
Yeah.
tells them about the situation where he's like, my sister is marrying a real piece of work.
Yeah.
Honestly, a monster that makes you look like like a normal human. And so, but then the monsters are like so swayed by that, they're like, we'll help you.
Yeah.
Um, or maybe he like shows up and he like tries to confront the guy, and gets beat up by the other bachelor party. The other groomsmen like help beat up Mikey, and they're like, we
Yeah.
never wanted you on the bachelor party or whatever. And like right before they go to, like right before they knock him out or maybe even try and kill him, I don't know. We have to create, the stakes are really low. I think that's the problem. Like, if it was a bigger wedding, if it was like money on the line, and it's like pretty obvious, like, oh, we're gonna just say that Mikey went for a swim and we don't know where he went. Like,
Yeah. These
we'll
guys
have
are
the wedding
real.
perfectly fine, and we'll find you, months later or whatever, and nobody's gonna miss you,
Mhm.
Mikey. And maybe Mikey, I'm trying to, what is his flaw? Again, that's kind of the whole point of the story, but
Like I think we're going the coward route a little bit.
yeah,
Like he needs to learn to be braver and stand up for himself and stand up for his sister.
yeah.
The more we make these bros bad guys, the easier it is for the monsters to come clean house, Like
Oh
as
yeah,
the
and that's what you
audience,
really
like
want. You really want the monsters unleashed,
yeah,
to be able to just do stuff. It's either like a total joke because it comes out of the blue, or you've set it up to where like that's the purpose of the story, where
yeah,
he stands up to the main guy,
yeah,
and I think the reality is that the bride has to reject him, has to reject the groom,
hmm
and then that's when the full carnage happens.
yeah,
Or she sees it maybe early on, like right before, like the day before the rehearsal
hmm
dinner.
hmm
Um, Nothing is to be said about the monster wedding that is going to happen somewhere. Um, and maybe that's what it is. It's like, now that we've helped you with your wedding, we need you to help with ours. They show it, and who knows what he has to do. But yeah, I don't know.
I think that's funny because it could be once they're all friends, then the end scene is like they they go to the other wedding. They go to this like monster wedding in
Okay,
the
yeah.
forest, and like the humans are there, and the human bridal party is there, and then you even get like the hint that
The Wolfman and
the Wolfman and her are like, oh, just like you have a little meet cute moment where he's been like crazy furry, and then he's just like, I don't know. It's something like it could be the reception, or it could be the ceremony where he's like, oh, could I have this dance? She's like, who are you? He's like, I'm Tony. I'm
yeah,
like the wolf guy, and she's like, oh, and like she just like, yeah, I don't know, just something. It could be quick, just to
yeah.
allude like, oh, there could be something here. There's a new love interest floating around. I think I'm naturally drawn more towards. I do think there's more comedy in. Well, here I think there's a lot of comedy in the monsters being monsters and Mikey having to stand up to them. But I feel like I'm more naturally drawn to the monsters not being super monstrous
I
and
think the
just being
story wants that for
yeah, I
sure.
think the story wants that. They're not monstrous. They can still do monstrous things that he doesn't feel super comfortable with. Like, because they have to do stuff, but they're not like let's murder this innocent person, like
Yeah, yeah.
whatever. Because I feel like if Mikey through this journey, like he's not doing this with the bro guys, So he's just being forced into more bro guys that are like
That are
where I
worse.
feel like that are worse, that I feel like I think the story could work, but I think them being like showing him that there's a different way. There's a different friend group. There's a
I think
different
I
thing.
got it. I agree. I think what's actually needs to switch though is that Mikey needs to go from being a bad guy to being a good guy. So
Hmm.
Mikey needs to be a monster to begin with.
Okay. Okay.
And so maybe he is the groom, right? And then they swap places. He gets the brain fur. The zombie version gets the brain fur and becomes like pretty normal, right?
Yeah.
And it's just like a normal version of him. And normal, not mean. And he's like mean to his bride to be. It's all this kind of stuff. And at the end, he's like, oh, he rejects the monster part of him.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why the groomsmen, I've swapped it completely. The groomsmen now come out of, and they help him. The groomsmen show up and they help him. They see that he has like changed basically. Um, or maybe he even, there is like a weird like love interest thing happening with like the best man and the bride or whatever. And Mikey realizes that and is like, oh, I'm not ready to be married at all. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I got myself into a situation that it wouldn't have been good for anybody. I'm too much of a monster. I like that. I think that actually really works. It does change things. You can still have a lot of the playground stuff where you're just like running around doing crazy things.
Yeah.
But I guess it would be the other way around where you'd have, well, no, it would work because he's a monstrous guy. Like he's like Scrooge basically, but he's
Mm-hmm.
being pushed into situations that like reveal that.
Mm-hmm.
So like the monster's like continually asking him to kill people or do like crazy things, it's like, okay, he's like, well, I don't want to do that. And then he's coming to realizations that are like, oh, because of this, oh, because of that.
Mm-hmm.
And then he like pushes back on them. But I guess you that type of character though wouldn't have the self-awareness to be like able to hide and pretend to be a monster.
Yeah.
You
I
know,
feel like that's the problem that's breaking it with me. If he's like a bad guy, I feel like that's almost like a stretch, like
yeah.
where
Maybe
he's
this
not
was just
realizing.
a classic Zach switched up at the very end.
Yeah.
But
Which I don't, audience, send us some messages. Let us know what directions or what we could use to add things. I think I still like him being like passive and sheepish and cowardly.
that's
Like
good comedy.
there's good comedy. It would force him to play along where like a brutish guy would just be like, "Hey, I'm out of here." Like just like it. He's
That's
like
true
a,
if he's assertive and already
yeah.
monstrous.
And also it gives him a cowardly guy can have more self-awareness than like a brutish guy, you know? Like he
Yeah.
can know that he's like, yeah, I know I'm scared. I know I'm
And why
passive.
would you care for a character who's monstrous? You wouldn't if he's
Yeah.
the main character. But again, it's like Scrooge. Like Scrooge is mean. Like so
Yes.
he goes from mean to happy and nice.
Yes, but I think Scrooge is having the plot more thrust upon it. Like he has no choice but to deal with the ghost where we need a character that
A
will go
ghost would be good
along.
too, dude. A ghost
A,
would have been good.
a ghost is yeah, a ghost he, he doesn't show up till the end. They're like, "Who are you?" He's like, "I've been here the whole time."
I'm the
He's
Invisible
like,
Man. The
yeah,
Invisible Man
yeah,
because he also is a universal monster.
yeah.
Um,
And he's in Hotel Transylvania as well. I
oh
think that's
man, dude, we really rocking
well, it's
that.
like we're not copying like they're copying the classic monsters. Like there's only so
Yeah,
many
yeah,
classic monsters.
they are like an entity at this point. Like they're a roster, a recognizable roster.
Oh yeah, yeah, they are the group, you know?
Yeah.
Like I actually really like the Invisible Man is a very funny character to have for jokes. Like
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
yeah.
Especially for like a bachelor party. I mean, he could be up to no good, basically.
Yeah.
Um,
He's like, dude, you don't want to know where I just was.
yeah, yeah. I don't even know where I was.
But I'm leaning a bit towards him being cowardly. I like what we built. I know that it could work the other way with
Agreed.
him being the jerk.
Again, that was just to try and reveal any weaknesses or whatever. So yeah, he's a weakling
Yeah.
and shows up and then learns how to fight, learns how to be monstrous
Yep.
in a good way. I think that's what's interesting about it is like we tell a lot of stories about men kind of realizing their masculinity in a lot of ways and dealing with it and in a good way. Like to be clear, I think masculinity is a good thing.
Yeah.
And to protect others and to stand up and do the right thing, those are good masculine behaviors.
Yep.
Monsters existing on the other side of that, or like monsters being nicer guys than humans. Classic theme, I feel like that like the monsters are more human than the humans.
Mhm.
It's very delicate. It's a balance that you have to strike. So it's like because ultimately you don't want to veer into either the monsters just straight up killing people and asking Mikey to do so too, therefore devaluing human life, or like too early or for too small a reason the monsters being able to kill the regular bachelor party because that
Yeah.
also devalues human life.
Yeah.
So there's like that tension in there where you're like, okay, what could they be doing? Yeah, I think if they again going back to the one scene idea I had where the monster bachelorette party runs into the regular human party, the Van Helsing party.
Yeah.
That's the groom's last name is Van Helsing. And
He's like, yeah, I have ancestors from this area.
yeah, we used to kill people like you. So that might be our along the lines, by the way.
So it's like,
what a good line, dude. I'm sorry, I was tickling myself. Like, we used to kill people like you.
So it's such a, oh my gosh, it's such a bad line because it's like it's like, it's very racist towards monsters.
Oh,
Like,
of course.
but it's like, because
that's what makes it really funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, that it's like quasi forbidden. But yeah, that he's and they kill the bride basically. And then Mikey has to kind of negotiate between the parties basically, and helps draw a truce, which would be really cool. Then you have like one big wedding, and it's like, although he just killed the bride of Frankenstein, so maybe that's not recoverable.
Yeah. I feel like it being more of they could just straight up do it, but also it being an accident, or like they get a vampire, and like one of the bridesmaids, the vampire they accidentally bring her into the light and she just turns to dust.
Yeah.
Because there's like a certain level where it's like, okay, we're really making these guys monstrous if they're just like, I guess they think monster. Well, they shouldn't even like believe monsters are real, but it would be his line is so funny.
Yeah, exactly. We used to kill people like you. So funny. I think that's worth it to me, like to say that like that kind of pushes them over the edge.
Yeah.
And maybe the other bachelors are just like, bro, that wasn't cool.
Yeah.
They say that kind of thing, which is also very funny.
Yeah.
The problem is we're making people too smart. We need to make them a lot dumber to make this concept work, I think.
Yeah.
And so they're like, bro, not cool, bro. Bro, she was kind of hot. Not cool. And he's just like, yeah, whatever, and he killed the female vampire.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that works. And then, we really make them flat characters so that it's easy for monsters to beat them up later.
And so then they do. They show up and they beat them up. Or maybe they just beat up the groom.
We're basically just making the human party just idiocracy. They're just like these bro-y, like dumb dudes that are just like, yeah, Mikey, just eating a live bird.
Like what fits in with them is a straight up zombie, like just a dumb, whatever.
It would be funny if there's the Zed just like grabbed a pigeon and started eating it, and they're like, yeah, and one of the bros like grab a pigeon and he's just trying to eat it.
That would be anything like that would be really funny. Like, oh, he ripped that guy apart, and Mikey didn't take, he's like some homeless guy gives him a hard time or whatever, and he's just like, the Zed just kills that guy, and they're like, oh yeah, Mikey, that's awesome. Like they have no problem with him killing somebody.
Yeah. Well, I think we just need a title and maybe a line. We might have our line already.
Yeah, I think the line still works because it could be like the groom during the big confrontation, like right before they actually fight. He's just like, we used to kill people like you. He just says it because it's dumb and it's stupid. It's funny, whatever. But for a title, because at the end of every episode, we say this all the time, we do a title and a line from the movie. So a title, I was thinking something like Monster Party. I know that's like really dumb, kind of like simple. Like, I don't mean dumb like bad. I mean like it's
just very simple. It's just what it is.
Yeah.
I was thinking that too earlier. I was like, Monster Party kind of feels like right on the nose of what it could be.
Yeah.
Like I almost don't know if we need to hide it any more than that. Like I feel like Monster Party.
No, yeah. Yeah, I'm wondering. I'm thinking through it right now because like Mikey's a good M. So Mikey's and monsters and just like in my head,
Mikey and the Monsters.
Mikey and the Monsters does work. Like I'm not saying it's better than Monster Party. Man, if you could put it all in one night, you could do something. I mean, because it's like Hangover-esque, right?
Yeah.
But like that doesn't work though because they want to wake up and be hungover.
Yeah, I feel like we can't I don't think we can contain it to one night the way we've told the story so far because it's too much stuff happening.
At least one or two nights or a couple of nights that they would be
weekend Weekend with the Monsters.
Yeah, Bender. They're on their bachelor something. There's probably a really good one.
Yeah.
But probably a really good fun like turn of phrase about bachelors, or bachelor parties. Even like the location could play into it, depending on where they're at.
Yeah, which we have not talked much
we
besides
we
Germany.
Said Europe in some ways, but
yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know. I feel like I'm good with Monster Party.
Monster Party's fine with me. Monster Party, I'm fine with that.
But audience, if you've got some ideas, we'd love to hear. Sometimes we can't think of it on the fly, so send us some messages or comment below in the YouTube videos, and we'd love to hear some alternate titles for Monster Party.
Yeah. And then in terms of the along the lines dialogue here, I think we have the groom, the nameless evil groom, now revealed that they've had a zombie in their midst the whole time, and there's a big confrontation probably at their wedding, after killing the bride of Frankenstein, and they're being confronted by all the monsters, and the evil Biff from Back to the Future type groom just shows up. We used to kill people like you.
Thank you all for listening to StoryFellas, a part of the Pemmican Studios podcast network. Check out our show notes for bonus material, links, and more. To find out more about our current projects, send us messages, and suggest ideas for the show, go to StoryFellasPodcast.com. If you liked what you heard, share the show with a friend. Word of mouth is the best way to grow this community. Until next time, go make and break those stories.